America, it's time for some straight talk. You love your phone. Look at you. You hardly put it down. But you don't love that expensive wireless plan, do you? So what if I told you can keep that phone network and number 2 for a lot less? Well, this is me telling you. It's time to switch to Straight Talk, guys. Bring your own phone and get unlimited plans starting at just $45 a month on America's largest, most dependable 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart.
Savings may vary. Please refer always to the latest terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
This is the worst of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
As I'm hearing the end of that rejoin, I call this the peekaboo echoing. Stugotz underneath it is telling me, speaking to me for the first time during the commercial break, because he's planting the seed right before we start the show. I'm going to tweet at Colin Kaepernick, begging him to become my quarterback.
I'm not going to beg him. I'm just going to let him know. I think he feels alone. I watched the Jets a little bit last night. McCown got hurt. The fact that they're playing their starting quarterback in the 4th preseason game is so New York Jets. Now, he was fine. He came back into the game, but he's dreadful. And they don't have a quarterback. And I would like Colin Kaepernick to be my quarterback. I'm not going to beg him to be my quarterback. I'm just going to let him know I'd like him to be my quarterback. Colin, I'm a Jet fan. I'd love for you to be my quarterback. So he knows that he's wanted by many of the fans in the NFL, and I encourage all Jet fans to get behind me on this.
Okay, I more want to examine, because people are really tired of Colin Kaepernick talk that hasn't moved very much since we started having the conversations, how you manipulated me on the subject matter.
Yeah, sorry.
Talking right, like you were telling me something right, you were planting your thing there on me right as we were starting the show. Like the microphones almost went on and clipped you as you were talking about Colin Kaepernick. That almost happened.
Yeah, it's a move of mine. I do it often. And you started where I wanted you to start. Thank you.
Can you do fewer private shows for me? Like,
we get a lot of content out of the private shows. You want me to stop? I'll stop completely. I won't talk to you today for the rest of the show, unless we're on air.
That's not what I asked for. I asked you to just dial it back a little bit. We do get a lot of content from you yammering during the break.
Right.
But I'm asking you to just dial it back a little bit.
Can you define it? Like, what do you mean by a little bit? Like every other break, once an hour?
Just monitor. Be aware of how often you're blowing hot takes in my face.
Okay.
But take some inventory of it instead of making me responsible for how it is that all of them arrive.
All right. It's fair. No more private shows. You'll miss me. I'm not going to do it at all. I'll walk into the shipping container and I'll give it to them. And when they kick me out, I'll just go down. I'll find someone.
God, no.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
I mean, I'll go down to the streets. I don't care. Someone's getting these private shows, man. Because what happens here is you do the show that you want to do, and that's fine. I love the show that we do, but there are certain things I always want to get to that we never get to because you don't like some of the topics that I like and they're not interesting to you. And I just got to get them out. Well, and so I'm going to get them out somewhere. I don't know.
Okay, I'm curious, though. Why don't you ever just say to me, Dan, I'd like to talk about this, as opposed to...
I've tried that.
No, you've never done that.
Yeah, I have.
Stugotz.
I've done that.
Tell me the last time you did that you said...
The last time I did it, I don't remember the exact date, but I gave you 5 things. We didn't discuss one of them, and I never did it again. Because you don't like my topics. It's fine. I understand. Listen, the show I would do left to my own devices is completely different than the show that we do together, and I'm fine with that. All I'm telling you is I need an outlet. And the outlet is usually you during the commercial breaks. It's Cody on Tuesdays. It's the shipping container. I know no one wants it. Everyone's tired of me. And I'm just telling you, I need to find someone. So I will not do them for you anymore. I won't do it for them. I'll find someone here at the Cleveland.
Well, why don't you just do Facebook Live every commercial break? Every commercial break, just wander around talking on Facebook Live. What happened? Why? Mike, are you shaking your head? No.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
I don't know how to do that. Yeah. It's just so much easier to singe your eyebrows with Take-A-Tude instead of learning how to do Facebook Live. Regardless, Justin Verlander is traded. When did this change? He is traded to the Houston Astros.
In the middle of all of that, Fat Chris just asked the entire shipping container, is a Cheeto a chip?
It's not.
I'm not sure why. What about that discussion would make you say that?
But he's just thinking about food. It's 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, and he's thinking.
It's a good question.
All right, put it on the poll. Is a Cheeto a chip?
Do you consider it a chip?
No, I don't consider it a chip. It's a puffy cube of air cheese.
Is it a chip or a puffy cube of air cheese?
That's the question.
It's not a chip. A Cheeto is not a chip.
Are we talking all Cheetos, like Puffs and Crunchy Cheetos, or specific Cheeto?
Well, that's a good question.
Oh, man.
That's a good question.
The crunchy Cheeto
ones,
is definitely a chip.
No, a chip has to look like a chip has to look like either a potato chip or a tortilla chip, doesn't it? Or like a pita chip. It can't look like that.
Well, no, Fritos don't look like either.
All right, well, but is there anything that looks like a Cheeto that is a chip?
Well, Cheetos might be.
Well, Cheetos, there's corn chips, potato chips.
Right.
Well, a Cheeto might be. Is that what you just said to Mike? Is there anything that looks like a Cheeto that qualifies as a chip? So you're telling me if we started a Chip Hall of Fame, like the Cheeto is going to be outside like Pete Rose signing autographs down the street? If we made a Chip Hall of Fame, the Cheeto would not be allowed in. We'd all know it should be in, but it feels like it should be in, but we're like, ah.
A chip is anything that you could order with a sub on the side.
Yeah.
Well, Cheetos is one of those things.
Really?
Yeah, and it comes in a bag.
A chip is anything, really? Coleslaw's a chip, Mike?
Wait. Is a mighty
crunchy side? Well, no one really, salad. Not everybody has coleslaw as an available side to your sub. Okay.
So you mean if you walk into a Subway, so a cookie is a sub?
Is it on the rack? Is it on the rack? Sometimes popcorn. That white cheddar popcorn, which is very good.
So good.
Ooh, very good.
But to me, saying the Cheeto, saying a Cheeto is a chip is like saying popcorn's a chip.
Is a mighty Gita a chip?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, a
banana
flat
chip.
banana. Oh. Yes, that's a chip. A mighty Gita.
These veggie sticks that some of these sub shops have, though,
not
are
a
the
chip.
worst.
Not a
the
chip.
worst. Get them out of my life.
Well, what are pretzels? Just pretzels or pretzels?
Yeah,
just
what
pretzels?
are pretzels?
Pretzels are pretzels.
What are pretzels? They're just pretzels?
No, they're not a chip. They're a pretzel.
But they're in the chip section.
They're mini versions of larger pretzels.
But popcorn's also in the chip section.
How about this?
Snack section.
I think the popcorn that's pre-cooked that comes in the bag that you have to open, not the one you cook yourself, the one that comes in like the aluminum bag.
Yeah, that black bag with
that's
the
kind of
white
a
cheddar.
chip.
Yeah, I'm with you. Chip.
You can't. No, popcorn is popcorn. Pretzels are pretzels.
No, there's different kinds of pretzels and popcorn. There's the individual pretzel, and then there's the chip pretzel.
When I'm thinking of chip, I'm thinking, is it crunchy?
But
Mike, yeah, okay, so this is what we've got.
So
this is
crunchy.
no. Let's do this Mike's way, okay?
Huh.
Let's do it Mike's way of defining.
Crunchy.
You could get it with a sub.
But it has to be crunchy.
Yeah.
So
But it has to
coleslaw,
be
not a
crunchy.
chip.
And so cereal also would not be a chip, right? Because you would never get it with a sub.
Right.
And it comes in a box. If it comes in a box, it's not a chip.
What do we do with Fritos?
Ooh, but what about Ritz crackers? No, those are crackers, not chips. Man,
Crackers.
Cracker's a cracker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roy, you were a little zealous agreeing with that. I mean, you really wanted to get in there and say, yes, a cracker's a cracker. Seemed aggressive.
What is the name of that popcorn in the black bag with the white cheddar?
Oh, the Smarty popcorn?
Is it Smarty?
Yeah,
It's not
Smarty.
Smart. I don't know why you made it Smarty. Maybe because you turn everything into a sports nickname.
Yeah, Smarty.
It is Smart popcorn. It is not Smarty popcorn.
SP.
You turn everything into a nickname so it becomes Smarty popcorn.
You sure it's not?
I don't think anybody thinks a Cheeto is a chip.
Do you go to the supermarket at all, Dan?
I do. I go to I do.
Whole Foods or something?
No, I go to Whole Foods though. They
You
don't
do?
sell Cheetos there, but they've got a whole organic chip section.
one
none of those are chips. None of
those
those are chips.
anything organic.
None of those are
It's got to be
chips.
bad for you.
Yeah,
man.
exactly. Chips have to be bad.
It has to be bad for you.
I have a lot of difficulty picturing Dan pushing his shopping cart.
Yeah, he's a handbasket guy.
Yeah.
He's carrying it.
Yeah.
What about like those bean chips? Are those chips? Because they're just beans that have been like crushed together.
Put that on the poll. Is Dan? I want to see which. I'm going to unveil it at the end of the show, like maybe with the polls.
Nice tease.
And I'm going to reveal at the end of the show. Here's a reason to stick around, people. Time spent listening is very important in radio. This is the reason to stick around for 3 hours. There is a chance that I will remember by the end of the show to tell you whether or not I shop with a handbasket or with a cart. And you can't know this unless you're here 3 hours from now.
No way it's a cart.
No.
There's no way it's a
I'd
car.
be so
No
shocked.
way.
I'd be less shocked if Dan was riding a burro.
No, I see Dan going down the aisle with his foot on the cart, pushing it. Like, you know how you like skate across the aisle with
no
the cart?
way.
No,
Yeah,
if he goes shopping cart, he's at the front of it pulling it, not at the back of it.
If he's doing it, it's not the traditional way.
Right, he's
It's
not two,
something
he's not two
awkward.
hands. He's not two hands on the handle.
Yeah, he's in front of it and he's dragging it behind him.
As he's picking out stuff.
So
I have Mike pushing the cart and Dan just going down the aisle.
I'm in the cart.
Yes.
Sitting in it.
What do we do with goldfish?
Wow.
They're not chips. What? Wow, they're not chips.
Wow, but it's
they're
crunchy.
Crackers. They're crackers.
Wait, you can't get it with a sub.
Well, how about the pretzel flavored
Can't
one?
get it with a
What do you
sub.
mean you can't get it with a sub?
Where do they sell goldfish with subs? Tell me.
It's a cracker.
Yeah, cracker.
And by the way,
it self-identifies as a cracker?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, we get back to it as we always do. This is not a Mike Tirico situation. The ice cream sandwich doesn't get to be a sandwich because it calls itself a sandwich, and the goldfish doesn't get to be a cracker because it calls itself a cracker. It doesn't decide. We decide.
By the way, it's Smart Food white cheddar. Smarty party.
Dan Le Batard.
Look at him. Just, what are you doing? You're leaning
Stomach
back
hurts,
in your
yeah.
chair, rubbing your belly.
Yeah. I mean, as Dan pointed out, I was left to my own devices all weekend, man. It was awful. I mean, it was just terrible. Some of the things that I was consuming.
Stugotz.
I baked cookies at like 11:30 one night. Little Haagen-Dazs vanilla ice cream. Whew. That was after 18 chicken wings. And I washed it down with some Toll House cookies and some milk.
Aren't you leaving some consumed stuff out? How do you get to the point that you're eating this much?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
So the Ezekiel Elliott story is all over the place today. The NFL, if you're not familiar, suspended him for 6 games. The Players Union, Jerry Jones says there's no evidence. The Players Union is going to fight this, doesn't want any games, 0 games. Now a report in the Star-Telegram of Fort Worth is reporting that the lead investigator of that entire case recommended to Goodell no punishment. And this information got to Goodell, according to Pro Football Talk, and Goodell rejected it and went 6 games. And among everything else that's dangerous about the NFL trying to swim in waters it's not equipped to swim in is now the NFL, by virtue of the way that it's handling these investigations and fighting with its players union over it, Stugotz, the NFL is spending an awful lot of time bringing attention to the fact that its players hit women.
Right.
Like more attention than
Yes.
we would have paid. Where the NFL is getting comfortable with the idea of fighting Bob Kraft and Jerry Jones, fighting 2 really powerful owners, and sitting here and bringing a lot of attention, more attention than we've had anywhere in the history of sports, to that league hits women.
Right.
Because it's in the news so much that you think it may be happening even more than it's actually happening because the Ray Rice thing and the Ezekiel Elliott thing are getting so much attention.
Just to be clear, the investigator never made it into the room with Roger Goodell, and her request for 0 games was not put in the final report that was presented to Roger Goodell and the NFL, which is just confusing to a lot of people.
This is, to me, the most fascinating fight that Goodell has chosen yet to fight, because now he's going after an old oil tycoon who's the most powerful guy in that sport, who's been trying to win a championship for a long time, says there's no evidence, and they're taking away one of his players. And Roger Goodell, it doesn't seem to me, Stugotz, that Jerry Jones would be real patient, tolerant about these kinds of things. Jerry Jones has been a giant Goodell supporter.
Sure.
And just recently, didn't Jerry Jones say, wasn't it reported that Jerry Jones wasn't totally on board with the idea of Goodell getting an extension in 2000 until 2024? Regardless, we got an important phone call here. We got to change lanes here. Mike Golick is driving home from his morning show, and he was infuriated by something that I said. What was it now? What did I do now, Golick?
Oh, my gosh. Can we get off the secondary topics of the day and get to the real stuff? A Cheeto is a chip. I mean, there is something, I do agree with you, Dan, that Cheetos and Frito-Lays and Doritos and Goldfish, they don't name themselves. We have to categorize them as human beings. That's what keeps us above them on the food chain. We eat them, they don't eat us. So, here is the deal. We know what chips are. Popcorn, we know what, like, listen, I'm flying to Notre Dame today, and I'm changing planes at O'Hare. I am going to stuff my pie hole with either Garrett or Nuts on Clark popcorn, cheese popcorn. Popcorn is popcorn. Chips are chips.
Right.
I do agree with Goldfish. I think they're crackers. Ritz crackers are crackers. If I were to say to you, Cheetos, what have you categorized it at? What name other than a Cheetos do you just call it
that's
Cheetos?
a good point, because when we say popcorn is popcorn, pretzel is a pretzel, when we're looking for classifications, It becomes difficult to say Cheeto's a Cheeto.
Exactly. You can't say Cheetos is a Cheeto, so where would you classify it? So I think the easiest thing to do is to classify it as a chip.
All right, that's fair. Mike, what do you do with a Funyun?
Hold on. Let's stay in one place. First of all,
we established that Cheetos is a chip.
We have established his expertise is what we've established.
Correct.
Because that was deftly done.
Yes.
What he just did there, he sort of boxed us in, and then the next thing we know, we're looking up, and a Cheeto has become a chip, even though I disagreed with him 2 seconds ago. He is a master debater.
Well, that's, it's a personal thing, but I think I am good at that.
End on that note, Golick. End on that note.
Perfect.
We will see you later. Thank you for contributing and solving this for us. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Glad to help, guys.
Master debater, Mike Golick, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Chris Cody's face is just like scrunched up, and he's saying, that was weird.
Yeah.
That's a really good point he's making, though. Because we're useless with our commentary that what's a pretzel? A pretzel's a pretzel. What's popcorn? A popcorn's popcorn. A Cheeto? What is it? A Cheeto is blank.
A lot of people are saying puffs.
What?
That's what they're saying.
I mean, it is a puff.
No one describes a Cheeto as a puff.
No.
Nobody would know.
It's a chip.
It's a chip.
I think Golick made a very fair point. There's not a category for Cheetos. Therefore, it falls into the chip category.
How's the poll coming back right now? At Batard Show. Where are we so far on is a Cheeto a chip? Golick, very persuasive there. A lot of people moved off of their very hardened positions. It would be great if all debates in America and all tensions and all clashes in America could be solved that easily with people just listening to each other and not fighting, not needing to argue, and just understanding one another.
54% of the audience right now does not think a Cheeto is a chip.
Well, what is it then?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing.
Smart guys.
That's there.
Reply to that poll.
There's
Then what
the
is it,
eternal
smart guy?
conundrum right there, smart guy. There's the eternal conundrum. Okay, you tell me it's not a chip. Well, then what is it? And then what you got?
I'm telling you, everyone is saying it's classified as a puff.
But what's a puff? What else is a puff?
The hell's a puff?
They're saying that Cheetos are classified as a puff. I don't know what a puff is. I'm with you guys. I think it's a chip. But everyone's saying puff on the text here.
Name me another puff.
Was a Funyun a puff? Because it's not a chip, technically.
So, as I was saying about Justin Verlander.
Thank God this is over.
Corn puffs. Thank you. Corn puffs. Puff.
That's a cereal, though.
Oh.
That's a pop, not a puff.
And all Cheetos aren't puffy. There's crunchy ones.
What the hell is a corn puff?
Never had one?
You've never had corn pops?
A corn puff? I know what a cereal is. Corn pops.
A corn puff is popcorn.
Looking for a new phone? Metro PCS will do you one better. They'll do you 2 times better. Tell them how, Stugotz.
Yep, get 2 free awesome smartphones with 32 gigs of memory right now when you switch to Metro PCS. And yep, I said free. Only Metro PCS gives you twice the memory of any free phone. You'll have more room in the summer for your selfies, pictures, videos, and apps. That's more memory for more memories. Go to Metro PCS and get your 2 free LG K20 Plus phones today when you switch 2 lines. Sales tax not included. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out.
Jerry Jones will say anything, will give you an opinion on just about anything. And a week ago, Jerry Jones was asked whether he supports Roger Goodell's contract extension, and Jerry Jones refused to comment on that one way or another. So that no comment is a very strong comment.
Dan Le Batard.
Called common sense reporting, Dan. Connect the dots.
Stugotz.
I would not describe your sense as comment.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
You guys see what Le'Veon Bell did?
What did he do now?
Le'Veon Bell, applied for a job at Dairy Queen. Actually filled out the forms.
Is that a sponsorship thing? Is this some sort of guerrilla marketing?
He's great, dude. He is great. I need to figure out how to make him a friend of this show. I've never seen anybody treat a holdout this way, where he's like just making it very cold and funny about, hey, give me my money. I ain't showing up, and I don't care about the mess I'm making while I'm not showing up because he's having fun with it. It's totally harmless. He's really having fun. He's agitating his employer and the fans who cheer him and his city, and he's having fun with it.
I'm looking at it now. He's filling out the application.
Also, the show that we do off the air is better than the show we do on the air. The most recent example, this actually happened during the break where I just shouted into the other room, "What is a bugle?" And Mike Ryan spit back at me without any thought, "Oh, the bugle's a bleep hole." What are you, bugle? Are you a salty cereal, bugle? What are you? Identify yourself. What the hell's a bugle? Honestly, it's a cone of some sort, a salty cone of some sort.
Yeah.
That's not a chip.
That's a fair point. It kind of, it's like in no man's land.
Who likes bugles? The only people that like bugles are the ones that like to just put it on the tips of their fingers and pretend they're some sort of monster.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Do you buy the bugles chip? I guess I'll call it a chip, but I'm reluctant.
Don't bestow the chip honor to bugles.
It's defined as a corn snack.
That's not helpful, Stugotz.
I'm just telling you what they're calling it. The
helpful.
people who make it are calling it a corn snack.
Everything we're talking about are snacks. Everything we're talking about.
I'm telling you, the people who created these things, they have categories, and they put that under a corn snack.
They don't decide. We decide.
All right.
So coming up later in the show, Tim Kirkshin's going to join us. Also later in the show, Chris Jericho is going to be on with us. But I want to get back to this Ezekiel Elliott story because I find many layers of this to be fascinating and problematic for that league. We've talked before about the idea that the American legal system cannot get right how it is to handle domestic abuse. It's really complicated. It's hard to have 100% strength and conviction on men beating women and being able to prove that they've beaten women in a court of law. It becomes very complicated on how to punish that stuff. And now the NFL is telling you, no, law, get out of the way. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't been arrested for anything. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't been charged with anything. Get out of the way.
One thing that we discovered, though, in all the details that have come out, it's a lot of times the police have been called. A lot of times that we didn't know about.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And so they did their investigation, and man, this thing is so hard to digest because none of the people involved have credibility. Because if you read some of the reports on the woman, she too has, if you believe the reports, and I don't know what's accurate here and what's not accurate here, and it's part of the problem with everyone lacking credibility, that it becomes very muddled when no authority can be trusted, when a 13-month investigation by the NFL is resulting in a report that is thorough, but the lead investigator says there should be no punishment, and Roger Goodell is deciding, nope, 6 games. Like that's a wide berth, man. You're taking almost half of Ezekiel Elliott's season in what is a short career lifespan,
right,
on something that Jerry Jones, the owner, says has no evidence. The lead investigator is saying 0 penalty. The players union is saying 0 penalty, and Roger Goodell's the only one out here waiving 6 games.
And why do you think he's doing that? Why do you think the league is doing that?
Because they want to be leaders and pioneers on this subject, which is an important subject to them. But they've botched these things. Here's what I'm telling you makes this really hard, Stugotz. The players union, until now, has been wary of supporting its bad martyrs. The union once upon a time wanted the bad behaviors punished because they thought it was a bad reflection on the rest of their membership. But now the union doesn't trust these investigations. And so the union is looking at all of this and saying, absolutely not. No more, Roger Goodell. No more. And so they've got some strength behind them because of the botched investigations. Right now, defending Ezekiel Elliott doesn't make you as queasy. Because the NFL investigations lack credibility, defending someone accused of what Ezekiel Elliott is accused of would normally make you queasy.
Right.
But they feel emboldened because they could come after the NFL, which doesn't have credibility on its investigation. And now you've got this report in which within that investigation, the lead investigator is recommending 0 games, according to the Star-Telegram.
And the NFL this morning, a spokesperson is denying that Goodell didn't know what her recommendation was and didn't know all the information, that they still looked at it. They knew everything, and they looked at it, and they made their decision, and their decision was 6 games.
But this is what I'm telling you, though, Stugotz, and this is why it's dangerous to have Roger Goodell with this kind of power. It's why it's dangerous to allow him to make up the rules as he goes along. The law, America's legal system, has told you that while Ezekiel Elliott may not be innocent, he has not been charged, arrested, or convicted of anything. Jerry Jones is telling you there's no evidence. And the lead investigator reportedly is saying 0 games for Ezekiel Elliott. And then on the other extreme, there's one guy shouting 6 games. And it's Roger Goodell. And he's alone over there. And he doesn't have the support of his players union or anybody. Whose support? He doesn't have the support of Jerry Jones. Whose support does he have as he comes down this hard on being a pioneer of domestic abuse?
Well, I wonder if the other owners are supporting him through this, because Jerry Jones certainly is not. That's for certain. I mean, maybe Daniel Snyder is, because same division.
If they're working on an extension, then they are, right? If they are, if he's going to be extended through 2024, then they are. And again, I know that Ezekiel Elliott and this particular crime makes for a really bad martyr. I know you don't want to hear it. My guess is that many of you are listening to this and saying, well, Zeke should get 6 games. Not innocent until proven guilty. Never mind the law. Never mind what the lead investigator says. My guess is that many of you want him punished 6 games. And so Roger Goodell, the cause is actually a worthy one, Stugotz. The cause of trying to be a pioneer on domestic abuse is a worthy one. The problem is this particular entity is not equipped to be a pioneer on this front.
I don't want him punished. I mean, I want him punished if he did something wrong. I want to be able to trust the people and the process. That's what I want to be able to do. As a fan, I want to be able to trust the people making these decisions and the process that they're using to go about making these decisions. And I think you have a hard time trusting anyone in the equation.
Well, how have you guys done any reading on what it is what's being reported? And this is what makes he said, she said so difficult. What's being reported about what the woman was doing on the back end in terms of wanting money for things to go away. I got to be careful with some of this, and I got to put this, the help me out here so that and forgive me because I'm entering dangerous waters here, and I don't have the source material in front of me, so I will get it before the next segment on some of the things that have been reported about what the woman's doing. But it's what makes this so muddy, Stugotz, for the American legal system. When you think about what I'm saying, think about how difficult this is and why the NFL is in over its head. If the lead investigator has all the evidence and Roger Goodell has all the evidence and the lead investigator is saying this deserves 0 penalty, and Jerry Jones is telling you there's no evidence here. They've all seen whatever the evidence is. If the lead investigator and Jerry Jones are telling you not enough evidence here to give us any games, and Roger Goodell is looking at that same evidence and arriving at 6 games, do you realize how difficult all of this is?
Yes, confusing. Absolutely.
But they're trying to handle something they are not equipped to handle. They're not, because this is the same stuff that ends up in courtrooms, Stugotz, and you can't get convictions sometimes on men because the women are refusing to testify, because the women realize that they're going to ruin their man's career, or they've been in an abusive relationship, and they somehow get talked into not testifying or not pressing charges.
It's just confusing and frustrating because here we are. You would think, Dan, that they would have taken the necessary steps to be, to be able to handle a case like this. I can't believe we're here again, is what I'm saying. They didn't learn from their past mistakes, and they are equipped, Dan, but I don't know.
No, they're not equipped. Nobody is, Stugotz. They're not equipped. They are not equipped to be leaders on this front because they don't have they're not unified on it. You need the support of your union. You cannot have your union telling you every time you throw a penalty at them, no, that's wrong, we don't trust you. They are not a partnership right now when it comes to this issue. Hell, they're probably going to strike over it. Like when collective bargaining comes, this Goodell's power is going to be one of the chief issues. Goodell's power to punish is going to be one of the things that gets addressed in a way that makes it really tense when labor negotiations start.
Don't forget, you can hear more of my sons Dan and Stu weekdays starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Dan Le Batard.
Game day bucket, go boom!
Stugotz.
I do like that idea, Goldie. Greedy. I like the idea. I have a friend named Goldie. I called you Goldie.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Tim Kirkshin with us now on ESPN Radio. Tim, is a Cheeto a chip?
Yes. I'm going to say yes with great hesitancy.
Great. Okay. With great hesitancy. Okay, so
Such
you're
a measured response.
Yes, you don't have very much conviction about this then.
No, I don't think it's in the chip family, but what else would it be? So it's a chip.
Right. I mean, Dan, listen, the question's stungy at first, so I understand his response. Like no one really knows how to answer it except for Golick.
I know. I mean, I feel like, can we get Tom Brady on so he can tell me that he doesn't want to answer it because he was at a wedding? Can we do that? Tom Brady, answer the controversial topics. Is a Cheeto a chip? That's all you got, Mike? Not the I was at a wedding one? No? Okay. Tim, does Mike Greenberg look like the guy at the store that holds the door open for you when you're obviously too far away, forcing you to awkwardly jog to the door? Hate that guy. That guy, man. I'll open the door myself.
Oh, man.
He does look like that more than anyone in the history of door opening. Yes?
He does. He looks like a lot of people. That's good. That's a good one.
Will, you're on with Tim Kirkshin. Go ahead.
Hey,
Will.
Tom.
Sorry.
This is an extension on the sitting or standing while you wipe conversation. If you are doing your business and immediately taking a shower after, do you wipe it all? Save the whales.
What is that? Come on, man. Get out of here. Do you? Blue, you're on with Tim Kirkshin. Go ahead, Blue.
Tim Kirkshin, you good?
Am I good?
Yeah, you good? Tim, you good?
You good?
Am I good or what?
Okay.
Are you good? Just say, yeah, I'm good. You good?
Yeah, you good?
I've never said, yeah, I'm good. No, I'm not good.
Well, you just did. Oh, you're not good. Okay.
No is the answer. Now what you got, Blue?
Wow.
Do you care why he's not good?
Tim Kirkshin, is hot fries a chip or a fry? I'll take it off the air.
Wow.
Hot fries?
What?
Hot fries? Have you ever had hot fries?
No, but it sounds like a fry instead of a chip because fry's in the name. Hot, I don't think changes it.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what it is.
Robert, you're on with Tim Kirkshin, Robert.
Hey, here's the argument to end all arguments. If you can't put chili or cheese on it to make nachos, it's not a chip. Tim, what do the Mets pitching prospects look like for next year? Thanks.
Wow, you came in strong, sir. Yeah. You came in hot.
No, it's dumb. You don't put chili on Lay's potato chips.
No, absolutely not.
It's terrible.
Ever,
terrible.
right.
Yeah, terrible standard. Terrible.
Go ahead, Tim. Mets pitching prospects.
The Mets pitching is so up in the air. We just aren't sure about Matt Harvey. We're not sure if Steven Matz will stay healthy enough to be good again. We don't know if Noah Syndergaard's going to be the 100-mile-an-hour pitcher he used to be. Jacob deGrom's pretty close to being a sure thing. He's great. But I can't even answer the question until I see them all healthy again. And even then, I think there's a real question whether they can be a dominant group like we thought they would be at one point.
Tim, can you remember a staff that just a couple of years ago had so much promise throughout baseball history? A young staff that had so much promise.
The Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor staff.
I was asking Tim. That did not develop.
Dan's is a pretty good one, and I think the Marlins when they had A.J. Burnett and Brad Penny. I think that team in the early 2000s was considered like the next great young rotation out there, and it didn't quite work out.
Does Mike Gundy look like the Family Feud contestant who shouts cornbread after Steve Harvey asks for a vegetable that begins with a C?
You know the greatest Family Feud episode ever. You know that, right?
No.
When they had to pick a famous Rudolph. Did you hear that one?
No, please. Please tell us.
Well, they went through Rudolph Nureyev and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and they couldn't finish it, so the other team had a chance to steal, meaning they had a chance to get together and think it over and discuss it, and they came bursting out of the huddle, and they said, Richard Dawson said, name a famous Rudolph, and they said Hitler.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
They had a chance to think it over, and they came out with Hitler. Rudolph Hitler.
You really caught me off guard there, Tim. I got scared.
Caught everyone off
I'm telling you, I thought this was a safe space, that I would never hear anything about Hitler in this area. This is not where I expected ever to see that. Okay.
Rudy Hitler. Oh, my God.
This is as shocking as anything that has ever happened on this show. Like, I don't remember being more surprised by anything in my life than what just happened. Oh my God! Tim Kirkson's mouth was not the place that I was expecting any of this. Oh my God! Does Robert Kraft look like the guy inside the monster costume that would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for them damn kids? Yeah.
The white-collared shirt.
Oh, my God.
Can't get past the feud, man.
That was just such a great story. Anything else on that subject, Tim? I feel like I interrupted you with our Robert Kraft looks like.
No, that's the greatest Family Feud episode
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
Can anything be better than that?
I cannot imagine the shock of the viewers who are watching it live. Cannot.
You should have seen the look on Richard Dawson's face.
It's amazing, man.
I'm looking it up.
Like,
right?
honestly, how bad do you feel as a family if you're on television and that happened to you? Like, it's amazing. It's an amazing ignorance to have spread throughout your family, to think that his name was Rudy all this time.
He had to go to a board and say, show me Rudolph Hitler.
They all said, good answer at the same time. Like, we got it.
Wait a minute. Did he have to?
I'm looking right now.
Did Richard Dawson actually say, show me Rudolph Hitler?
No. See, they had a chance to steal, so all they got is a buzzer. That's all. And
Damn.
That's right. When you steal, yeah.
Oh, my God. Marcus, you're on with Tim Kirkshin. Go ahead, Marcus.
Hey, Tom. Quick question, by the way. Rick Hahn, GM of the year. How do you think the White Sox rebuild will go in a few years? Do you think they'll all pan out? Do you think some will fold? What do you think there? Thanks, Tom.
Okay, well, you know this is baseball. It never all pans out with young players. You know how that works. However, the collection of young players that Rick Hahn has come up with is remarkable. They have the best farm system in baseball, and several of those guys are going to be Major League All-Stars for sure. But to say they all are, or this is going to be the greatest young team ever, it never works that way in baseball. But I'm still stunned how well the White Sox have done rebuilding that team. When you look about how to rebuild it, that's how you do it, the way the White Sox did.
Dylan, you're on with Tim Kirkshin. Go ahead.
Hi, Tim. How you doing? First of all, a Cheeto is not a chip because it has puffed air in it, and that makes it a corn chip. And then second of all, you always talk about Walter Johnson a lot, and I wanted to know why you think he's the greatest pitcher of all time. Thanks.
Well, they won 417 games for mostly really bad teams in Washington. He threw 110 shutouts. Maddox and Glavine threw 60 combined. He had 38 1-0 shutouts. So he had more 1-0 shutouts than Pedro Martinez and Curt Schilling had shutouts of any score combined. That's how great Walter Johnson was, and he was, 5 inches taller than anybody on his team. He weighed over 200 pounds. So I think he would have been great today. I really do.
Kevin, you're on with Kirkshin. Go ahead, Kevin.
Dan, Stu, easily the best show on radio ever. And Tim, my question for you is, don't you think Justin Turner should be the lock for the MVP in the National League?
No, there are no locks for the NL MVP. Justin Turner is in the hunt, but do you have Arenado, Harper, Goldschmidt, Stanton, Votto, Blackmon, Turner? That's 7 guys. I have the MVP ballot this year from the National League, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. That's how close it is. That's how many great candidates there are. As much as I love doing that, I'm not looking forward to this because it's not going to be easy.
What do you look at beyond OPS?
Well, I start with OPS, you're right, and then I look at how the team does. I still can't get away from that. If you're playing really important games and you're carrying your team to a first place to the playoffs, that's going to matter for me. I look at the ballpark in which you play. I look at the team that you're on, certainly. There are a lot of factors that go into it, and sometimes I look at it and I'm not sure I got it right, but I do as much research as possible. And I talk to the players and the managers of those teams, like, tell me about this guy, and sometimes they'll give you a really good answer.
Timmy, how do you define meaningful or important games? Like, is Stanton right now playing important games because there's 6 out in the wild card?
Yes, and again, Joey Votto's the one that you look at and say, how many really important games have they played in the last 3 months? And that's a tricky spot for him, and that's not his fault. That's the problem with this question. But the word valuable allows you to go any way you want with that. If it's just player of the year, then we're going by the best numbers, and that's slightly easier. But when you throw in the word valuable, then it allows some subjectivity, and that's where it gets really tricky.
Does Jeff Fisher look like the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries? Does Field Yates look like the guy who's always standing right next to his boss? Does Wright Thompson look like he runs an alligator farm? Jay Cutler look like the parent at your kid's soccer game who looks at you after your kid trips over his own feet and smirks and says, your kid, right?
Don Le Batard.
Yo, chicken time.
Stugotz.
Smarter guy.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Handful of things to get to here. Mike, that sound you guys were playing of Jim Rice in the other room, is that straight talk? Is that worthy of straight talk? Is he giving us his former Boston Red Sox great Jim Rice giving us the straight talk? Yes or no? I have not heard this sound.
Oh, yeah. Jim Rice is giving it to you straight.
Yeah, straight and great.
Okay, let's. Yes. All right, so here's the backstory. CC Sabathia's got a bad knee. In the first inning last night, Boston tried to bunt on him, and CC Sabathia said that was weak. So that's the starting point. I don't know what Boston great Jim Rice said. He is a historically surly sort.
He was surly on Nesson, and this is courtesy of them.
What is he talking about? Bunting is part of the game. You try to get on the base any way you can. If you tell him to leave some of that chicken, that donuts, and that burger away, maybe his leg will be okay that he can feel that baseball. So that just...
You're fired up.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
So there's nothing wrong with Nunez bunting in that situation?
No, not at all.
So Sabathia doesn't have a right to be upset?
No, not at all. No. What he has a right to do is fulfill his contract, lose some weight, and go out there and pitch.
Whoa!
That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
He's going after CC. I thought CC was skinny now. With old fat jokes. Has he gotten back to fat again? He got back to fat again?
Yeah, he's fat.
Does he have a really
Big bone,
skinny?
big bone.
Yeah.
He's always kind of big.
Boned.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it? He was eating a box of Captain Crunch a day, or was it 2 boxes of Captain Crunch a day? CC Sabathia. Whatever it was a lot of Captain Crunch.
Right.
1 box, I'd say, is a lot too. So
half a box.
Whatever. Yes. It's horribly unhealthy. Stugotz was telling me during the break about this fan at the Mayweather fight who made his way from the cheap seats into the celebrity seats. I haven't followed this story at all, but Stugotz was saying this is someone we should get on the air, that this is our kind of guest. A guy who wormed his way up to the celebrities, tried to blend in with Mayweather's security team, and then just started hassling celebrities who assumed he was supposed to be up there.
Yeah, he had a $2,500 seat. He was in the last row, and he was waiting for Mayweather to enter the ring with his security team. He blended into that security team and got all the way up to the second or third row. And then, because when you're up that close, everyone just assumes that you're famous and you're wealthy. And so he was asking all the celebrities if he could take selfies with them, and they wanted selfies with him. And I just think it's kind of funny. In hindsight, I wish that we had him on right after the fight because it's a really funny story. But he got pictures with major celebrities, and celebrities were coming up to him and saying, hey, can I take a selfie with you? And he's like, absolutely, because they just assumed that he was somebody. It's a funny story, man. I'd love to get the guy on to talk about it.
Do you guys want him on? I feel like Guillermo and Mike are looking at you as if they don't want him on. Roy is saying, yes, I do want him on. Chris is just thinking about food and lunch. That's the look on his face. At Batard Show, put it on the poll. Do you want us to talk to the guy? Or do you want Allison to find the guy so we can talk to him that snuck from the cheap seats to the celebrity seats at the Mayweather?
Allison's saying no a lot back there.
Really?
Oh, she doesn't want to chase him down?
Because
that's typically not what Allison does. She's down for the challenge. I'm not sure why she's so.
Allison, what's the matter? Why don't you want to do this?
This
Allison?
is a 32-year-old bartender who loves McGregor and had the worst seat in the house, paid $2,500 for it, and parlayed it into a front row seat, and now he's buddy with all these big time celebrities.
No, he ain't.
Don't care. I just don't think it's interesting.
I don't think it's that interesting either.
Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Chris Jericho next.
Don Le Batard.
You are the best, and when I say the best, I mean the very worst and most evil.
Stugotz.
The worst.
But this time, it's for real.
Worst.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Stugotz in his head is thinking to himself, I need to move to Japan in the event that maybe I want to kill somebody. Like, it's such a weird, like, hey, they can get away.
I was thinking how unfair that is.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. There's an expiration date on murder.
All right. Chris Jericho with us. He's got a new book. No is a 4-letter word. This is Chris Jericho. This right here is a big hit. This is an alt-rock hit right here. This is Chris Jericho. Yeah, do you love it? Do you love this right here? Do you love that Mike Ryan, our producer, is such a fanboy that he just played your own music to introduce you?
Well, it's great, man. It's funny because it's a #1 hit on satellite radio, and most of the time when I come on, people play the same WWE entrance theme that they play for the last 15 years on a regular show. So now you're much more contemporary because you are joining in with the #1 hit, the platter that matters, the hit across the nation, Judas by Fozzy with Chris Jericho. So I appreciate that.
What are some of the things that have come into your life, Chris, and thank you for making time for us, that you've been surprised by like that wrestling helped bring into your life? I wouldn't say that wrestling really helped bring that in. It's almost the result of that, the exact opposite of that. When we first started, that's kind of what I wrote No as a 4-letter word about, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be in a rock and roll band and I wanted to be a wrestler. And now that I've accomplished both at a high level, people are always asking me, how did you do this? How did you become, get into wrestling, get into music at such a high level? So I wanted to write a book with kind of the 20 lessons, principles that I learned throughout my life on how I was able to make my goals come true. So it's almost like an ipso facto self-help book, a motivational book, and now I'm going to consider myself the next Tony Robbins. So there you go. Tony Robbins, Tony Little, and Tony Jericho is going to be my new name. Chris, I just asked you a question. It was my second question. You didn't answer it, and you went straight into book plug mode, and it was exceptional, but I feel like you didn't answer my question at all there. I was asking you about perks that have come into your life.
Careful, there.
I know. I don't want to get this guy mad,
Be very, very careful.
No, but I'm just saying, I was going to give you a chance to talk about your book. I honestly was. You didn't have to steal my second question and turn it into your book promo.
I should become a politician. That's exactly what I just did. But it did kind of answer your question. It was in the same wheelhouse because you asked all these other perks and things.
Yeah, like just some of the stuff that's come into your life where you've been like, wow, that's really cool that I get to do this. Meet this person.
But again, what I'm saying is it all stems back to the fact that when I was younger, I decided that I was going to do whatever it was that I wanted to do and not hold back. So when you get into music or you get into podcasts or you get to be a guest on the Dan show, it's like all of these things are, like you said, perks or offshoots of the original concept I had of wanting to do something and making it happen. So I did kind of tie it into what you were asking me. So the answer is, did I expect it? You never expect anything, especially in show business. Am I surprised? Not really, because I put in the work and the effort to make it happen.
But you're continuing to not answer Dan's question.
I'm not sure.
I run the risk of upsetting you.
I think I did answer it.
All right. Listen, if you say you answered it, then that's good enough for me. Okay. We're
Jericho,
good.
The new book, No is a 4-letter word. It is available now. Chris Jericho with us on ESPN. What are you proudest of overcoming? What's something in your past that has required a strength from you that surprised you?
Well, first of all, one is not answering your first question. I overcame that. I think one of the principles in the book, I call it the America's Funniest Videos principle. And the principle is you have to learn how to let go of things. And the story about that is last year I was like the front runner to become the new host of America's Funniest Videos. And for a whole year I was green for it, and all these things happened. And at the end of the day, I didn't get it. And when you don't get it, when you've been focusing on it and trying to make it work, it's hard. It's hard to let go. Because professional crushing defeats, I'm sure you've experienced them as well. And sometimes you want to dwell on it, and kind of your life kind of becomes a slave of that. But you have to let it go. And if you can't let it go, I think a person's life and career is not defined by the failures. It's defined by the successes. But those failures are what helps you appreciate the successes even more. I hope that answers.
Yes, no, and it's also excellent advice. But I'm also shocked at how close you were to, being the host of America's Funniest Home Videos. And while you don't want to dwell on past failures, can I ask a follow up about that? Because I'm kind of
absolutely.
Yeah, how close were you? How close were you to getting that job? And why was that job so important to you?
Well, first of all, it's such a great job. It's a mainstream, iconic show, and to be the host of it, it puts you into a different level. And I think the creators of the show wanted to put a little bit of a different spin on it, make it a little bit more contemporary, a little bit more Jericho, I guess you'd say. And it's close to the point where, anytime you have a show, I'm sure you've experienced it in the past. You have the producers of the show, and then there's the network or the station that the show airs on. And they basically came to heads, and the station won. So it was pretty close. From everything that I know, it was a year and a half of working on it. So, that a year and a half of working on it, it was boiled down to like a 90-second Dear John letter saying, sorry, buddy, you didn't get it. And that's where you're like, oh my gosh, I spent so much time on this, and it was right there. I could taste it. The contracts have been drafted, that sort of thing. When you get that close to something and it gets taken away from you, it's hard to rebound, but you have to. That's just the way life goes.
The new book is No is a 4-letter word. It's available now. Chris Jericho is on his way to becoming the next Tony Robbins, or, he's going to Jericho everybody. Guillermo, can you put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show? Does Chris Jericho know my last name? We'll get the answer to it at the end here. We'll get to the... No, don't answer. Don't answer now. We'll get the answer at the end. Just put it on the poll there. Go ahead, Stugotz.
Chris, it seems like everything you touch turns to gold, so we're wondering here, because I was watching one episode during the commercial break here. What the hell happened to Downfall?
Well, tell the people what Downfall is.
It's a game that Chris hosted where contestants had to answer a certain amount of questions in a certain amount of time, and if they didn't, then their prizes would start to fall off of a building. Like a car, a couch, cash.
So you loved it? You loved
so
the show?
much potential. Chris was great. I loved the show. What happened there, Chris?
Yeah, everything was on a big, giant conveyor belt that would take these prizes off the side of a building in the middle of downtown L.A. Actually, what happened, one of the things that happened is that people started getting mad at the show for, wasting perfectly good grand pianos.
You guys didn't consider that?
Think of that,
you guys hadn't thought of that beforehand? Because, if a perfectly good car is flying off of a building and just breaking,
Right.
that's pretty wasteful. You hadn't, that was an oversight, Jericho? You didn't think that might be a problem?
Well, I didn't write the rules, right? I just showed just the talking head. But the best part was then after a couple episodes when people started getting mad, then I had to say, this is a reasonable facsimile of a grand piano going there. It's not actually a real grand piano. And then once you start saying that, then that's no fun either. Like, you were going to bulk the wood piano worth 12 cents. It's like, well, then the whole thing just goes right down the drain. But I think one of those things, it looked good on paper, and then when you actually start doing it, you're like, well, there's a lot of issues here.
All right, so it looks good on paper, not until a car is going off a conveyor belt up a building and crashing in the middle of Los Angeles do you realize there might be some issues with this.
Yeah, I was hoping they cleared the street underneath because that'd be the last thing we need to. Hobo dies as giant grand piano lands on head during filming a game show.
No is a 4-letter word is available now. Chris Jericho with us on ESPN. What is the most fun you've ever had at work?
It's once again, what my answers are so not probably. I think to me, it's fun to be able to do what I always wanted to do for a living. It's fun being in front of a live crowd and getting that instant gratification. And knowing, like, okay, you could have the greatest match in the world or put on the greatest concert in the world, but the crowd is sitting on their hands and not moving, then it sucks. And you could have, a match with a million mistakes and screwed this up and screwed that up or hit a bunch of bad notes playing. But if the crowd's going nuts and jumping up and down, that's all that matters. So I think it's fun being able to see how people react and know that when Jericho comes to town that they're going to get their money's worth. And that's kind of I've been able to build a whole career and fan base on that. So it's just really cool to know you're, making a difference in people's lives when it comes to entertaining them.
Let's go around the room here before we get the correct answer from Chris Jericho. Chris, yes or no? Chris Jericho knows my last name. Yes or no?
Yes.
Guillermo, yes or no?
No.
Roy, yes or no?
Yes.
Mike, yes or no?
No.
Stugotz?
No.
All right. Final answer. So it's the Dan Show. What is my last name, Chris?
Well, here's the thing. I'm from Canada, so there's a lot of ways we can go here. So the actual spelling is Lebatard. So that could be Le Batard. It could be Le Batard. It could be Dan Le Batard. So I didn't have the correct pronunciation. So I'm going to go with it's the Dan Le Batard Show.
Yeah, excellent work by you.
How about mine?
Did I get it?
Yeah. How about mine, Chris?
All right. So all you guys that thought I didn't know Dan's name, you can suck it. I just didn't know how to pronounce it. So there you go.
All right. But how about mine?
Your name is Floyd McElworthy.
All right, thank you. And that is Chris Jericho, ladies and gentlemen. No is a 4-letter word. The book is available now. Thank you, Chris. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Everyone, make sure to continue to tune in to the Dan Show.
All right, the Dan Show with what? Floyd McElworthy. He wanted to make it Mayweather, but then he made it something else. Thank you, Chris.
Catch more of the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz, 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Dan Le Batard. I'm going to eat my wings with blue cheese, and a lot of it, and I'm going to come in here with blue cheese on my face and a couple of napkins. And too bad. Stop complaining about it.
Stugotz.
No one told you can't eat wings. You decided that on your own. That's a you choice, not a me choice. It was a me choice, an us choice. We'd be eating wings every day. We'd both have blue. We'd be slathered in blue cheese, both you and I.
We'd be slathering it on each other.
Yes, that's my dream.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Dallas Cowboys raised more than $2 million during a 90-minute telethon, with Jerry Jones making a $1 million donation to the Salvation Army's effort to help those affected by Hurricane Harvey. Wide receiver Des Bryant was on the receiving end of Jones's phone call. J.J. Watt started an online fundraiser Sunday to aid victims of Hurricane Harvey with a modest goal of $200,000 on Friday. As the amount donated surpassed $13.5 million, Watt has upped that goal to $15 million. It's incredible, man. I ain't saying anything bad. People are trying to bait me still on Twitter. It's not going to happen. How can you say something bad about this? What J.J. Watt is doing is absolutely amazing. $15 million. God bless him. And finally, True Detective Season 3 details have been revealed. Season 3 will tell the story of a crime in the heart of the Ozarks and a mystery that deepens over decades and plays out in 3 separate time periods. Mahershala Ali will play the lead role of Wayne Hayes, a state police detective from Northwest Arkansas.
Does Mahershala have a question mark in her name?
I was asking if that's how you pronounce it.
Right in the middle of the name. Right in the middle of the name.
Mahershala Ali.
That might be a fine for Dan. Nominee. Mahershala Ali. That's a dude. Won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars.
Oh, wow.
Was in Moonlight.
Well, wait a minute. Why is that a fine? Because I made a man a woman?
Yeah.
No, that's not a fine. I didn't get the name wrong.
We don't have anything set for that one specifically.
I got the gender wrong. I get fined for getting names wrong, not genders wrong.
It's definitely a Suey nominee.
How is that not getting a name wrong? Because you thought it was a woman's name.
No, but I said the name correctly. I said it correctly.
I said it with a question mark. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. You excited for that?
You guys love finding me, man.
Yeah, well, we do. True Detective, Season 3. You excited for that? Because we loved the first season, right? Second season, Third season, you excited for it? Because I am, kind of.
Yeah. I'm curious, some of the other stuff that you said about the flood, what a weird thing it must be to be somebody atop Red Cross right now, or these giving organizations, right? Because you don't wish disaster or horror on anybody, but you also don't get these telethons that raise this kind of money without the disaster. Like, people are not going, what a conflicted thing that must be to see horror hit an area of the country and know that the horror is so moving that it's about to fill your tank with money that you need to do good work.
Right. So conflicting, man. That's
right.
Tough. I mean, I'm certain they'd say they prefer that the disaster never happens.
But do they actually believe it? Is what I'm saying. Like, if you're running that as, you know what I mean? The core source of what you're doing with your charitable effort is you're trying to help, but you can't help as well as you possibly can unless disaster befalls people in a way that moves J.J. Watt to start making videos and connecting with people and raising like. Every time you look around right now, somebody's donating $1 million to something. How often do you see that with anything? Every time you turn around, someone is making another $1 million or $2 million donation.
It's a take I haven't heard so far, and probably with good reason.
Yeah. What do you mean a take?
Whether or not the Red Cross is happy this is going on?
No, not happy. Wait a minute. That's not what I'm saying. Wait a minute.
Well, Mike, you can make the same argument with the Weather Channel because they are getting ratings that are through the roof right now.
Wait a minute. I didn't say... Wait a minute. Do not do that to me. I did not say that the Red Cross...
I know exactly what you're saying. I'm just not sure why you're saying it.
Because we're just coming out of a couple of Red Cross stories and a couple of giant donation stories. And that money's all going to go somewhere. And as there is with many charitable efforts, many people look at charities when you give them millions of dollars. And the Red Cross has some of this in its past. And there are questionable ways that money is being spent. And so these are gold mine opportunities for the Joel Osteens of the world, if you're not actually charitable, to be somebody who does what happened to Wyclef Jean when Haiti needed repair, where you get corruption and contamination because money's just flooding in from every corner into a place. And usually charities or businesses like that.
So to summarize, you're asking whether or not the Red Cross is rooting for natural disasters.
That's not what I was saying.
Oh.
Can we move on?
I also think in the middle of that, you made Joel Osteen one of the good guys.
Oh, yeah.
How did I make Joel Osteen one of the good guys?
Oh, I mean, like a thief.
You made him a thief?
Yeah.
Either way, not a good look.
Yeah.
Wait, what? You don't even know what I said. And how do you extract from not knowing anything that I said to either way, not a good look? That's a great position to put me in.
That's
the life of the critic.
Terrible.
A guy writes in, love the show, but at least a few of us have no idea who Chris Jericho is. It only takes 15 seconds to introduce your guests to the audience. I feel like that's fair criticism. But where do I draw the line on that? Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers joins us. Or can I just say Aaron Rodgers? Where can I?
I think with Rodgers, you could just say Rodgers. I thought with Jericho, you could just say Chris Jericho, and everyone would know who he was.
What's the tipping point on that? Not everyone, but if you're listening to a sports radio show, you might know who Chris Jericho is. I mean, not necessarily because he's from the world of wrestling.
He crossed over though. He was in Dancing with the Stars. He's been around for.
But I'm wondering
decades.
though, I don't feel like this is an unfair criticism. What would you guys say? How much should I introduce a guest?
Host of Downfall?
Yeah.
Well, that was magical. That earlier segment where Stugotz asked Chris Jericho the question of everything you touch turns to gold except to Downfall. What happened there? And then doesn't let anyone in the audience know what the hell Downfall is.
I just assumed if you know Jericho, you know Downfall. I mean,
he did 5 episodes.
That's
5 glorious episodes.
That is just a maddening Stugotz thing where he just doesn't take inventory of
what are you
anything
lashing out at me for, man?
You yourself never heard of it until 5 minutes
I'm not
before the
lashing
interview.
out at you. I'm simply saying that when we had Chris Jericho on, you asked him the question. It may have been your only question. Your other question was, don't you know who I am? But your question was, everything you touch turns to gold.
Right.
What happened to Downfall? And you let it just sit there. And I jumped in and said, well, please explain to the people what Downfall.
That's a bad job by me. You're right.
So I'm not lashing out at you. I'm merely pointing
it just feels
out.
like you're shifting the anger away from what you just said about the Red Cross, and now you're just going to throw
anger do I have?
I
don't have any anger here about anything.
It appears that way, right?
Classic deflection.
Definitely deflection.
Look, man.
I mean, listen, I asked Jericho one question. You're a ball hog.
You know what? You know what? You're right. I am mad, secretly mad about everything happening with the Red Cross thing, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because ever since this damn flood happened in Houston, Mike Ryan doesn't trust a word coming out of our mouths, and he is just soaked in this blanket corporate fear that we are going to say something wrong about the flood. And so, Mike, and this is annoying.
Is that not fair?
It isn't fair because we're not. It's not fair, Mike. How many national controversies have we gotten into? Man, ESPN doesn't trust a lot of people to run this kind of thing that we're running down here without much supervision daily.
I'll say, as it pertains to me, it's totally fair. Dan has earned your trust and the benefit of the doubt.
Well, he lost at this segment with that open.
I will put. No, you are a fear monster.
Yeah,
Mike.
Yeah,
Mike,
people are hyper vigilant.
Mike, yes, and I'm not. Mike, I am not. I will not do this job fearing the angry mob. I'm not going to do it. They'll end me. That's fine. The angry mob one day will end me, and that's fine. I'm good with it.
Cool. You do you. I will be doing all the fearing for all of us, okay?
I'll be here in the safe zone, saying nothing controversial because I don't want the angry mob coming after me. I want to do this for the remainder of my life.
I am asking a question.
Don't you?
Man, so you guys, I am asking a question that I don't believe to be an illegitimate question.
What's the question again?
When monster amounts of money start pouring into an organization that is charitable during a crisis, it must be conflicting for a big, giant charitable organization to have its best days on days that people are suffering. That is all I said.
Yep.
Conflicting. I did not say they're happy that people are dying in a flood.
All right, I'm with you now. And I do think that's an interesting question, Mike, and a fair question. It is conflicting,
No,
right?
but
And it's an interesting thought.
I'm fascinated by how
kind of goes without saying.
Like Colbert, his ratings have gone up since Donald Trump has become president. But he doesn't want Trump to be president.
No, but Mike, you're saying it's much different. And here, to me, it's just by degrees different. It's different, but it's by degrees different. To me, this conversation starts with the one that we've been having on the radio forever about sports, which is, hey, if this guy has success over here, is that guy who's on his team happy about it? Is Ned in accounting happy when the sales team is doing well, but he's not doing well? It's just a matter of degrees.
Right. And he's definitely not happy.
Ned in accounting?
I mean, if the team's doing well and he's not happy.
But that's what I'm saying. Like all that stuff that we've talked about where Michael Irvin is chasing Alvin Harper down the field on an audible because Alvin Harper during the Super Bowl is running for a touchdown and Michael Irvin is chasing him saying, "That's my football. That's my touchdown." All that stuff that we're talking about. That we do it all the time in sports where we wonder, is Matt Castle happy that Tom Brady got injured? You know what I mean? And
he was.
Or is Tony Romo happy for the success of Dak Prescott?
No.
No, but I'm saying, so this is just the far ends of it, the far extremes of it. But I'm not saying anything. What am I saying that's problematic or that you're afraid of?
Just no one's saying that right now. Kind of goes without saying.
It does go without saying.
Yeah, but people are thinking it, Mike, and Dan is saying it, and I'm cool with him being unafraid. And you should be too.
I love how it's just, what do we say that could get us in trouble? It happens, guys. I don't want to point to specific occasions.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm saying to have
My
a host
job
who is unafraid around.
In large part, my job is to wade those waters so you don't have
but
to.
This is what I'm telling you, Mike. I am not going to be governed by the angry mob because the angry mob will make an appearance whether it's right or wrong. When I say that I don't believe Magic Johnson has qualifications to be in that job, and people start calling me racist, when the angry mob gathers, I know I'm not. And I know that what I said wasn't racist. And so I will let the angry mob do what it wishes.
Understood. But I feel like there's such frustration because even though I don't answer to an angry mob, I'd like to avoid it. And that's sort of my gig here.
Well, but see, that's the thing, though. No, I don't think you can do a job philosophically that way. Honestly, I get it. But avoiding the angry mob is not doing a job fearlessly. And this job is one that we should be able, at this point, to do fearlessly. This job, in this world, in this nonsense gasbag world of talking about sports, we ought to, at this point in our careers, be doing it fearlessly.
Dan's new water world isn't going to pay for itself.
But I get it. I get the undercurrent of all of this conversation, which is, hey, Dan, if you get fired, you'll be fired.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. I understand the conversation. I just don't want to have it because paycheck.
Okay, and I don't want to be governed by that.
I take back everything I said. I no longer support you.
Dan, look at the tab.
What did I just hear you saying about CPR? CRP? What was it? What was that acronym? That hideous thing that I don't want anywhere near the show?
CSR.
What is that?
Corporate Social Responsibility.
Oh, bleep off.
Floyd McElworthy.
What is that? Man, why'd you hire me?
This is
The Dan Show with Floyd McElworthy
on ESPN Radio.
If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show on demand in the ESPN app, plus our Miami Only Hour that airs before the show, and now you can subscribe to our Best of Podcasts. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. It is time to pump the brakes. Lane Kiffin, pump the brakes on if you were calling the plays for Alabama in last year's BCS National Championship game, that if you were calling the plays, Bama would have won that game. Give me a break. Alabama scored 31 points. They were up by a ton headed into the fourth quarter. The defense gave up 21 points in the fourth quarter. Lane Kiffin, the result would have been exactly the same had you been calling the plays for Alabama. They didn't lose that game because you weren't there and you weren't calling plays for Alabama. They scored 31. They had a 17-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. Lane Kiffin, pump the brakes. No one knows cars like the professionals at Advance Auto Parts, so the next time you need help finding the right tools or parts for your car, stop by. We'll be ready to help. Advance Auto Parts, let's get you back on the road.
I think what Lane is probably saying is that with that 31-14 lead, he would have called a different game in the same way that the Falcons lost in the Super Bowl because their offense betrayed them by not holding on to the ball late for longer drives. I think that's what he's saying.
And what I'm saying is pump the brakes.
Okay. So, okay, very good. So, good, and I lose.
Yep, you do.
Yet another victory to you.
Yeah.
So congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that.
Appreciate it.
So Rachel Howe joins us now, and you might be saying to yourself, well, who is Rachel Howe? Rachel Howe is the director of marketing for Cheetos. And today's show was a raging argument. And so now this, I'm going to go ahead and say it, this woman is the voice of Cheetos. Is that okay? Are you okay, Rachel, with me identifying you as the voice of Cheetos?
I sure am.
All right.
Nice.
So now we will get a definitive answer to this question. What does the poll say there, Stugotz, on is a Cheeto a chip?
We have a ton of votes here, man. Nearly 7,000, and 56% of those 7,000 have said no.
That no, it's not a chip. Okay, so what we were arguing is a pretzel's a pretzel and popcorn's a popcorn, but if a Cheeto's not a chip, then what is it? So here is the voice of Cheetos to tell you. Rachel, what is it?
Technically, it's delicious puffed cornmeal, but it's a snack.
Okay, it's puffed and it's a snack, but it is not a chip. You are denying that. Right now, we are getting on the air live confirmation that the voice of Cheetos is denying that Cheetos are a chip.
I mean, it's a Cheeto. There's nothing else like it. It's definitely a snack.
Okay, again, though, I want to hold you.
The important part is it's not a chip.
I just want to get the soundbite so that we could get it on the scroll and put it on ESPN. Again, the voice of Cheetos is denying, first and foremost and forever, that the Cheeto is a chip.
That is correct.
Bang! That's why I'm the interviewer that I am, and I am a champion, and this is, we solve things around here. So thank you, Rachel. We will send you a bag of Tostitos, the real chip. Thank you for your effort. We appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Very good.
So I was right. No, I said Cheeto is not a chip. I said it. Said it originally.
Stugotz.
That's what this is all about, me being right.
Stugotz. On the subject of the Cheeto being a chip, you realize you have taken about 12 positions?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't even taken the two positions
really only
of
two,
it.
chip or not a chip.
You have no. That's the thing.
You probably started out chip, and then
I started out no chip, and then Golick called in and convinced me it was a chip, and now I'm back to no chip.
Hey, Golick, did you hear that, Golick? The voice of Cheetos sends you double middle fingers.
Dan, look at tab.
Levy from Motorhead with us. What's going on with you these days?
Not much, we just finished the European tour, and we're going out in America, and then we're going out in Europe again.
Floyd McElworthy.
And what are those crowds like?
Clouds.
This is
The Dan Show
with
Floyd McElworthy
on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guest on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Dallas Cowboys raised more than $2 million during a 90-minute telethon, with Jerry Jones making a $1 million donation to the Salvation Army's effort to help those affected by Hurricane Harvey. J.J. Watt started an online fundraiser Sunday to aid victims of Hurricane Harvey with a modest goal of $200,000. On Friday, as the amount donated surpassed $13.5 million, Watt has upped that goal to $15 million. Incredible. And finally, blueberries can improve your memory. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Let's update the polls here. We have a lot of them at Le Batard Show on Twitter is where you find the polls. We will open up the club in the next segment. Where do you expect this Ezekiel Elliott thing to end up? Do you guys have any ideas? Do we know anything about where this might end up?
I think, just a guess, obviously, 6 games down to like 3 or 4 games, and then the NFLPA is going to sue, and it's going to take a while to get through the court, and Zeke Elliott's going to play week 1.
I mean, yeah, is this going to be something that lingers like Deflategate does as it gets in the court system and they just fight it with lawyers, not the union lawyers, Jerry Jones's lawyers. They just fight it with lawyers, injunctions, and the next thing you know, Ezekiel Elliott is playing all season?
Yeah, I think it's going to...
And so all that ends up resulting from it is that you got all of this publicity for your league for days and weeks about, yet again, your league beats women? Yet again.
Yes.
I mean, do you understand? Does everyone understand now why it is that I was telling you it's dangerous for Goodell to have all of this power?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, you were right.
You were right. Way to go, Dano. Way to go. Way to go.
Unbelievable record.
You understood years ago, and we're just catching up now.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Undefeated. Never lost.
Go ahead and update the polls.
The Twitter poll is brought to you by Upside. Now save big on travel and get a big gift card every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com. That's Upside.com. At Batard Show on Twitter. Would Dan rather be right than have everyone be happy?
Clearly. I mean, what perfect
Great
timing.
first question.
What perfect timing.
89% of the audience said yes. Are scallops overrated? 53% of the audience said yes. If you want to taste the ocean, would you just drink the ocean? 57% of the audience said no. Was the eclipse overrated? 69% of the audience said yes.
Nice.
If you want to taste the ocean, do you go and taste the ocean? The worst poll ever, and Stugotz's fault. 72% of the audience said yes.
I mean, just so you know, this poll, Stugotz put up this poll. I'm going to go ahead and explain to the people who weren't listening in the 9 o'clock Eastern hour what happened there. There's a caller who calls locally in Miami. Arash is his name, and he just says things are overrated. He comes on and he says scallops are overrated, and this is overrated, and that is overrated.
Boots in the summer, overrated.
Yeah, PJ Fleck, overrated.
Yeah.
Right, just all these things, right? And so scallops were overrated, and if he wanted to taste the ocean, he would just go taste the ocean. That's what he said.
Right.
And so Stugotz decided to make that a poll question.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to just taste the ocean, taste the ocean.
Right.
Do you taste the ocean?
Yeah.
And it's just intergalactically stupid.
A lot of votes.
Yeah. So it's just all that matters. Man, Stugotz's argument for everything. I can't tell you the number of times Stugotz does what is clearly the wrong, immoral thing, and his defense is a lot of people on the text machine agree with me, Dan.
Well, they do.
Like, right, okay, I know.
I'm just stating facts.
It's such an awful defense. Where you,
no,
seriously, I'm like, Stugotz, why, Stugotz, did you kill this grifter and take the 98 cents out of his pocket? Dan, a lot of people on the text machine said that I should do that. They agree with my position on that.
If I did that in Japan, I'd be good after a few months. Is Dan being mean to Stugotz? 65% of the audience said yes. That was at the time we asked that question. At the time, Dan was just tearing apart my poll question. If you want to taste the ocean, do you just drink the ocean?
That was an exceptional joke by you. Exceptional, okay? I salute you. But I have to point out to the audience that you texted Guillermo the other day a picture of your Jets golf cart and wrote to him, "Thank you, Guillermo. Your jokes bought me this golf cart." I just want to say that without saying anything else. Let's move on.
Thanks, Dan. Great joke by me. Is Dan better at the poll question than Stugotz? I mean, you're driving the show. I mean, you should certainly win this one. 57% of the audience said yes. Is Stugotz better at the poll questions than Dan? 51% of the audience said yes. How about that? Figure that one out.
You tricked him with your jazz hands and your sausage fingers.
Oh, man.
We disoriented him. It was like playing with a cat with a laser light. We totally tricked them. We tricked the entire audience.
What do you care about more, your university's reputation or the football program? 58% of the audience said the football program. Is a Cheeto a chip? 57% of the audience said no. Is Dan a handbasket guy, or does he push a shopping cart?
This one's big.
This is big. Now, you're not going to reveal.
I'm more into this debate than the Cheeto debate, quite honestly.
Same here, because you figured he was a what, Mike? Handbasket?
There's no way Dan ever grabs a shopping cart and pushes it around.
I agree with you. Fat Chris, where did you go?
I got him with a shopping cart, but he pulls it from the front.
All right, Roy?
Handbasket.
Handbasket, Guillermo?
either the hand basket or one of those like new carts that it looks like a suitcase almost that has like the long handle.
Right.
Yeah, one of those.
Allison, do you have a nomination for how you imagine me doing groceries?
Yeah. Hand basket, no shot you have a large cart. No way.
All right. I could see you actually going through with nothing, like just grabbing a few items and then just handing them to the lady at checkout. I could see you doing
Far
that.
more likely to just be carrying groceries in your arms.
Yes, like that.
inconveniently.
Yes. Spilling everywhere. Right. And then Mike's picking them up.
And do you use a plastic bag? I need to know that too.
Okay.
Well, I'll
all of
ask
the
people.
questions will be answered at the end of the show.
Okay. All right,
That's
good.
what we told people in the 9 o'clock hour, to wait for 3 hours. All of your questions will be answered in the next segment.
So we got a lot of votes on this one, and 59% of the audience feels like you use a handbasket. Does Chris Jericho know Dan's last name? 80% said no. Do you want Allison to find the guy that snuck from the cheap seats to the front row of the Mayweather versus McGregor fight? Well, you guys are wrong here, man. 70% of the audience said yes. They thought it was a good idea.
All right, next week.
All right. Well, too far removed from the fight.
Is that it?
We're done with the polls, man.
Okay.
Yep. Because today is not too far removed from the fight.
But any particular reason that you just hit me with, we're done with the polls, man. And man was just spit out of the side. Did you forget we were doing a radio show? Like, what?
I did.
And that we're friends?
I did. Yeah, I don't know why I called you man. I'm sorry. I've never called you man before, have I?
No, it's strange.
But I do call my friends man sometimes. Man. I do. My bad, guy.
So we're going to open up the club in the next segment. And that's what happens when the jokes go into his ear and don't come out the right way.
That was funny.
So, I mean, what percentage of Stugotz, at this point, I'm dead serious about this. What percentage of Stugotz is Stugotz? I want to know. Like, what are you, 79% Stugotz?
Oh, that's way too much.
Is it?
Mike is 79% Stugotz.
I mean, you guys have,
Guillermo is about 20%. 25%. Man.
Is there any way? This is what I'd like to
run
do.
out of numbers.
All right, how can we test? The math is getting bad.
Mike is 79.
Mike, but how do we do this? I'd like to know how we do this. How do we illustrate to the audience what the Stugotz character is without the crafting, the sculpting that the shipping container does?
You're already saying too much, man.
I am?
Yeah, just take it easy, man.
Okay, I need to back off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chill out, guy.
I mean, you're pulling back the